Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on Hoop World today. Today we have joining us Valerie Alston, a sports mental performance coach who helps young athletes build confidence and, of course, mental toughness. Her book, Confident, Calm, and Clutch, gives parents practical tools to support their aspiring athletic kids. Valerie's approach comes from both her professional training and personal journey as a former collegiate athlete who struggled with performance anxiety. After overcoming her own mental blocks, she dedicated her career to ensuring young athletes develop healthy psychological skills from the start. She works with athletes of all ages and skill levels, from youth leagues to elite competitors. We're super excited to have Valerie share her straightforward strategies that help kids perform better under pressure and, of course, most importantly, enjoy their sports more. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Valerie.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
I'd love to start with how your journey into the mental performance coaching started and what drew you to it, and
Yeah.
maybe start sharing that a little bit. And
Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions.
So my journey started as an athlete. So I was primarily a softball player. I played other sports all through high school, but softball was my competitive sport. And really the start of my journey was between the end of my sophomore year in high school, the high school season. My team was playing for the state championship, and it was the first inning, and it was bases loaded. I was a number 4 hitter. And I had played at this point travel ball and stuff. I had played in national tournaments. I'd been in championship games. It wasn't new to me, but for whatever reason, this game, I could not get my heart rate to slow down. My whole body was just jittery, and I choked. Struck out looking. I still contend it was not a strike.
I hear you.
But this is not a pitcher that was nowhere near the caliber that I was playing against in travel ball. And why I was so freaked out, it just didn't make sense at the time. I now know what was going on, but we ended up losing the game 2-1. It was a really tight game. And essentially what happened for me is that then into the next season, the high school season specifically, I took on this idea of that was my fault. And I have to be perfect, right? If we're going to win, I got to be perfect. And essentially what happened is I started playing really tight. And my dad, thankfully, being he was my coach for a lot of years, and we spent a lot of time in the cars talking and traveling to and from games. He noticed that I wasn't playing with that typical killer instinct that I had. For the first 2 to 3 weeks of the high school season, I was really timid, and I was doing okay, but not great.
Yeah.
And so this isn't normal for her. And so he got me in touch with an actual sports psychologist in my area. And we worked through some things. He helped me realize that I was carrying that quote unquote blame that wasn't mine, because I had 2 hitters behind me who could have also gotten hits, right? It's a
Yeah,
team
yeah.
sport. I wasn't the only one playing. But I was taking on all this pressure. I was taking it all on myself, that I had to be the one that was going to win every game or make the play or do the thing. And so he taught me some really important skills about turning my brain off so I could just play, doing things like singing while I was at the plate, like keeping it simple, see ball, hit ball, helping me did a lot of breath work with me, helped me train that. And within a couple of weeks, I started to really notice the difference and see that, okay, I was taking too much on. I was doing, putting the world on my shoulders. And thankfully, for the rest of that high school season, I started performing very well. And I have to say, we made it to the championship game. I got the game-winning hit in all 4 playoff
Nice.
games. Just saying. It was a
I
team
like it.
effort. Okay, it was a team effort. But I did get a critical RBI in each game, and then ended up knocking in the winning walk-off run in the championship game, which was like, wow, we won the state
Redemption.
championship. So that was my first introduction to it. And then, so I played in college as well, at the
Yeah.
University of Minnesota, and I realized that like some of that training really helped me as a freshman coming in, when I realized that some of my fellow freshmen were like terrified. Oh my gosh, it's college. And I was just out there ripping it and having a good time. And not that stayed as the competition got hard. I would not say that I was perfect, but I realized I had a bit of that edge. And in my degree, I was taking kinesiology classes. I had to take a sports psych class. And I really got introduced to more of the skills that I didn't have time to work on individually with my sports psychologist back in high school, my mental skills coach. And so I got exposed to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This stuff is really helpful. So I took stuff from the classes I was using to help me in college. And then as I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, I like this. I think I want to go get
Awesome.
a specific degree. And so I pursued my master's degree at Boston University.
It's amazing.
And then I started work in the field. I've been working with the Army since 2008. It's been my primary job, helping train
Wow.
mental skills with soldiers. And then how I got back into athletics is there was a military family that went to my gym, whose young sophomore at the time was playing softball, and she's like, "Hey, I just need somebody." It was COVID. I just need somebody
Yeah.
to work out with and like train with. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And that kind of sparked it back to, I want to get back to these teenagers. I
I love it. I
want to
love it.
get
So
back
how
to
long
working
have you
with
been working with the
kiddos.
teenagers? How long have you been?
Since 2020.
Okay. And obviously COVID, pretty amazing, crazy time for all of us.
That
How
was
have
wild.
you evolved your kind of approach to these young athletes?
I don't know that my approach has changed much since 2020 because since then it's been a little bit the same.
Yeah.
But I think what I've realized is that there are a lot of deficits in youth today, right? They're struggling with anxiety and pressure and perfection and all these things that really previous generations have not dealt with. And the research is pretty clear. I think it has a lot to do with social media
Of
and they have
course.
the way they're being, even society is training them. We have this safetyism culture that like we're not allowing kids to experience the natural consequences of their actions. And
Yeah.
so they're starting to fear failure, and it's hold up, that's normal. So there's some things, it's not all their fault. But I think what I'm trying to do is really be compassionate that they are not growing up in the same environment that I did. I did
Yeah.
not have to deal with social media
Yeah.
until me and Zuckerberg are the same age, right? I had Facebook in college when you had to have a .edu and it was
Funny.
a wall. Yeah, it wasn't. They have to contend with a lot more. They have
For sure.
access to so much more information that we never had.
Yeah.
So
And then you wrote a book about it, which
I did.
tell me about that and how you got there. And
Yeah. So the book was really inspired by the clients that I had early in 2020, 2021, seem to have the same challenges, right? It is being confident, trying to, how do I transition from practice? Like I'm great at practice, but I get in a game and I fall apart, or I get so nervous that I can't perform the way that I normally do. And so I was hearing the same things from my clients. So I was like, why don't I try to help more people and write down essentially the frequently asked questions, if you will, the frequently dealt with problems. Let's just write them down and put them in a book, and maybe more people will find some answers that can help them moving forward.